So, to kick things off today, we're diving straight into what is arguably the fundamental computational problem in generative AI right now. I mean, if you've ever wondered why generating just a single image or, a short video with a diffusion or flow model takes so much time, it really comes down to sequential neural network evaluations.
Right, exactly. It is a massive bottleneck. Because the standard generation trajectory, like the actual path the model has to walk, is entirely sequential. You literally can't run it in parallel.
Yeah, let's outline that trajectory mathematically for everyone. You start with pure noise, which we call fixed dollar, or X sub big T. And then the model has to step to $6 and so on, all the way down to $6 until you finally reach $6, which is your crisp, clean image.
And that denoising trajectory is inherently sequential because, well, each single step absolutely requires the exact output of the previous step. You can't calculate step 50 without knowing exactly what step 49 produced.
Okay, let's unpack this with a concrete example.
Yeah.
Suppose you have a high-end diffusion model, and it uses 50, 100, or maybe even 1,000 sampling steps. What is one single step actually computing in that scenario?
So at any one of those steps, the neural network evaluates the current partially noisy state of the data. It runs a massive forward pass to predict the noise or the velocity needed to step just a tiny bit closer to the clean data.
And it has to do that over and over. You're evaluating an enormous UNet or transformer architecture, hundreds of times for just one output.
Exactly. The neural network must be evaluated repeatedly, and the computational cost is basically determined by how heavy that model is, multiplied by the total number of steps.
Which is why video generation is just, dramatically more expensive than image generation, right?
Yeah.
You're not just doing this for one static frame anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Video adds the entire temporal dimension. Models like Wan2.1 or LTX-2.3 aren't just processing spatial pixels, they have to maintain consistency across time. So running hundreds of sequential steps on a massive video tensor just grinds your hardware to an absolute halt.
So the obvious question people ask is, well, why not just reduce the number of sampling steps, like just take fewer, bigger steps?
It sounds like a great fix, but if you just use naive, large steps, you completely destroy the generation quality. For video especially, it reduces motion diversity, and it completely breaks the temporal consistency. The objects in the video just start warping unnaturally.
Right. Which leads us perfectly to the central question of today's deep dive. Can we teach a new model to, jump across multiple points of the original generation trajectory simultaneously?
Yes, and that question is what drives the whole concept behind NVIDIA's new Parallel Decoding Distillation, or PDD. But before we can really understand how PD jumps across the trajectory, we have to build the mathematical foundation of that trajectory itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because looking at the research, there are really three major mathematical perspectives on how diffusion works, right? And I want to make it clear for you listening, these aren't completely unrelated technologies.
Right, there are just different mathematical descriptions of the exact same temporal evolution. The first one is the variational view, which is the basis of DDPMs, or denoising diffusion probabilistic models.
Which were heavily inspired by variational autoencoders, or VAEs, right? I always think of this view intuitively as just removing noise step by step to reveal the image underneath.
That's a good way to look at it, but technically it relies on lambda-driven dynamics. And the problem there is the mixing time across these really rugged, multimodal data landscapes. The model takes thousands of tiny random steps to avoid falling into a bad generation.
Got it. So that random wandering leads us to the second perspective, which is the score-based view, right?
Yeah.
This is where stochastic differential equations, or SDEs, come in.
Exactly. And the core math here revolves around the Fokker-Planck equation. So the equation is the partial derivative of the probability density with respect to time. So partial sub t of p sub t of x equals the negative divergence with respect to x of the velocity field times the density.
Whoa, okay, wait. That is a lot of math all at once. Let's ground that. What does that equation actually mean for the model?
Sure. Simply put, it governs the evolution of probability densities over time. It connects the stochastic random paths of SDEs to a deterministic path, which we call the probability flow ODE, or ordinary differential equation.
I see. So instead of randomly wandering, you find a smooth, predetermined path, which perfectly sets up the third perspective, the flow-based view.
Right. The flow-based view is deeply related to normalizing flows and flow matching. You can think of it as transporting mass from a simple prior-like pure noise to a complex target, which is our data.
And it does that transportation using a time-dependent velocity field, right?
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, All three of these perspectives share a common backbone. They are all ultimately about learning a velocity field whose flow transports a pure noise prior to the pristine data.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because now that we know we're dealing with this velocity field, we can talk about how Nvidia's parallel decoding distillation actually works.
Yeah, so PDD relies on a concept called trajectory-based distillation. It sets up a teacher-student dynamic to solve the sequential bottleneck we talked about earlier.
So just to clarify, the teacher model is the original super expensive flow model, right? The one that does all those hundreds of sequential evaluations to map out a really high quality trajectory.
That's right. The teacher maps the perfect curving path, and the student, which is our parallel decoder, learns from that teacher. But instead of taking tiny steps, it learns to predict the effect of multiple denoising intervals all at once.
So it performs several trajectory transitions simultaneously, which obviously dramatically reduces the number of model evaluations you need. But what does parallel decoder actually mean mathematically here?
Well, let's look at a specific trajectory. Say you have states moving from $60 to 60 tall, then 63, and finally 64. Conventional sampling computes each of those transitions sequentially.
Right, step one, then step two, then step three.
Exactly. But a parallel decoder groups a certain number of intervals, let's call the total intervals n, into a block of size L. And it attempts to estimate the result of all those intervals jointly. It predicts the mean velocities for all intervals in the block at the same time.
Okay, wait, let's define mean velocity so we don't lose anyone. Mathematically, what is the model actually calculating there?
Sure. The mean velocity, or v-bar, from tdi to tj is approximately equal to the position at the end of the interval, 6tj dollars minus the position at the start, 6ti all divided by the time difference, tj minus 2 doll.
Got it. So it's literally just the average speed and direction over that specific chunk of time.
Yeah.
And the PDD student model uses Runge-Kutta solvers, like the Euler or midpoint methods, on the teacher model to generate those target velocities during training, right?
Yes, exactly. But actually learning to predict those quantities in a single step is much more subtle than just predicting a basic finite difference.
To give you an analogy, doing sequential decoding is like driving down a really winding mountain road in the dark and checking your steering wheel every single inch. It's safe, but it takes forever.
That is a perfect analogy, actually.
Yeah, and a parallel decoder is like having a co-pilot who can instantly predict the exact wheel angles required for the next 4 curves simultaneously. So it allows you to just jump ahead safely without driving off the cliff.
Right, and avoiding that cliff brings us to why parallel decoding is so incredibly difficult to train. Because if it were easy, we would just build a model that takes one massive step from pure noise to data.
Right, so why does naive multi-step prediction fail so badly? What are the pitfalls if you just tell a regular model to take a massive jump?
Well, you run into severe error accumulation, distribution shift, and a massive loss of high-frequency detail. The biggest issue is trajectory curvature. The path from noise to data is highly nonlinear.
Yeah, let's visualize that curvature. Say the true high-quality trajectory bends a lot. It goes from point A, curves down to B, up to C, over to D, and finally lands at E.
Exactly. If you ask a naive multi-step model to jump from A to E, it'll just assume a perfectly straight line between them. It completely ignores the local velocity of all those intermediate curves.
Which means it misses the actual nonlinear trajectory entirely and just crashes straight into mode collapse.
Yeah.
Your video loses all its dynamic motion and just becomes a blurry mess.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how PDD solves this. It isn't just taking the diffusion model and making it smaller or dumber. It is true trajectory distillation. The student model has to respect both the local velocity at each curve and the interval average velocity of the whole block. But wait, how does it do that without completely overloading the compute? Because historically, matching a curving teacher trajectory required, like Jacobian vector products, right?
Yeah.
And JVPs are ridiculously expensive to compute.
Yeah, they are. Evaluating JVPs requires multiple forward and backward passes, which causes a lot of instability and eats up memory. So PDD avoids JVPs entirely by changing the architecture of the generation step itself.
Right. It uses a fused linear layer, doesn't it? During generation, the parallel decoder uses this fused layer to step forward.
Yes. The fused linear layer acts as a weighted average of all those predicted velocities within the block. It fuses the local curves into a single, highly accurate step forward.
That is wild. So it can compress, for example, 30 sequential steps into just 8 while perfectly maintaining the complex curving motion you need for high-quality video generation.
Exactly. It completely bypasses the accumulated integration error that normally ruins big jumps while maintaining consistency across multiple predicted intervals. So what does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive? It means we're looking at a massive leap forward in efficiency. PDD preserves the strict mathematical rigor and quality of step-by-step diffusion, like the Fokker-Planck equation and PFODEs, while achieving the lightning speed of few-step generation.
It's the best of both worlds, really. But, there is one final concept here that I think is really worth mulling over.
Oh, what's that?
Well, throughout this whole discussion, we've focused entirely on continuous state spaces, right? The continuous flow of pixels and images and video. But if this parallel decoding principle works so perfectly for continuous diffusion, what happens if we apply it to discrete autoregressive models?
Wait, really? You mean like large language models generating text?
Exactly. LLMs suffer from their own sequential bottleneck because they have to generate text one single token at a time. But if we can map trajectory blocks with a parallel decoder, could we soon see parallel token trajectories?
Oh, wow. So you're saying a model could potentially skip sequential token-by-token generation entirely and predict the trajectory of whole sentences at once?
It's certainly a possibility that builds directly on the math we discussed today. If trajectory distillation can tame video diffusion, text generation might be the next frontier to get the parallel decoding treatment.
That is a fascinating thought to end on. If LLMs can break the sequential bottleneck, the speed of AI reasoning is going to absolutely skyrocket. Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into generative AI trajectories. We'll catch you on the next one.